What is standard deviation? Standard deviation is like a mean of means. It tells us more information about the data. Standard deviation is a statistic that tells us how close all the data is to the mean. In other words, it tells us how much the data differs or differentiates in a positive or negative direction from the average. How do you calculate the standard deviation? First, you calculate the average of a data set. Then you subtract that from the values of the data set, starting with 1, 2, 3, and going on till you've done it to all your values of your data set. Then you square those numbers. After you square them, you add them all up, which is represented by the summation sign. After that, you divide it by n, which is the total number of values in your data set. After that, you simply take the square root of that number, and shabam, you've got yourself the standard deviation. How is the formula different if we only use a sample of the data? In our equation, n is the actual number of values in the data set. If we were to measure the height of all 35 players on a basketball team, we would divide by n instead of n minus 1 because we measure the height of all the players. Now if we were to measure a sample, we would divide by n minus 1. So if we wanted to take a sample of the length of all the fish in a lake, and we took a sample of 100 fish, we would divide by n minus 1, or in this case 99. Because the minus 1 helps adjust the results to reflect the standard deviation of the actual set of data. So how is this useful? So there is a science test, and the teacher averages the scores, and it is 75%. But after that, he takes the standard deviation of those scores, and it is 25%. This tells the teacher that the students are either completely understanding what he's teaching and making 100%, or they're completely missing what he's teaching and making F's and 50s. Now another teacher takes the average of his students' math test scores, and it is 75% as well. But when he takes the standard deviation, it's only 5%. This means that his students are understanding 70 to 80% of what he is teaching. Hold on, what was that? The averages are both 75%, but the standard deviations are 25% and 5%. As we can see, when the standard deviation is greater, the data is more spread out. But when the standard deviation is smaller, the data is closer together.